This week, Cody and I get slimed on uh-oh. So get a clean towel ready to wipe off the goo because you're listening to a kind of garbage telesitting podcast.
It's a kind of.
Welcome everyone to TELE-SITTIng. Today we're talking about uh-oh, the slime-tastic Canadian kids game show that aired from 1997 to 2003. I'm Adam Bishop, and I'm joined by
Cody Andrews.
Cody. So this week we're doing a TV show. I decided to do uh-oh. This came about because I saw a post on the subreddit of YTV Retro where a gentleman, I can't recall his name and now I feel like a dick. I think it was Andrew. Andrew posted a little retrospective of the show, and I thought that we would watch an episode then talk about it.
Yeah, they actually would have been neat. So I watched the episode and just kind of IMDb'd it just to see, because I recognized a lot of the hosts on the show.
Oh yeah, my favorite host is Sean Majumder.
Comedian Sean Majumder, who's been on he's been in like a bunch of Hollywood movies and TV shows, and he's also been he was a host on This Hour is 22 Minutes and like other Canadian like CBC comedy programs.
Mm-hmm.
So he's kind of like one of those guys who I think is a bit of an it guy in American movies and TV shows. But if you're a Canadian, like he's an Indian actor, comedian who just like shows up in almost everything.
Yeah, he's like as Canadian as it gets. He originally did, I think, before uh-oh, or it could have been after, I can't remember. I can double check the Wikipedia for him, but I mainly remember him from Brainwash, which was like, or I think they changed that to the Morning Zone later on, which was like the 7 or 8 a.m. version of the Zone where they would like talk about getting ready for school. But his name was, was it Brian? No, it was Ed. His name was Ed during that show. So I always got confused when people referred to him as Sean. I'm like, no, that's Ed from Brainwash.
Yeah, that's like a weird thing too, is there was a couple YTV hosts that hosted in character, but then some of them hosted just like as themselves.
Yeah.
Which always kind of threw me off, because someone would have like this wild, outgoing, cartoony personality, and then their name would be like, they would just have like a weird name. But then the person who hosted like the next segment or the weekend segment would be like, hey, it's Phil.
Oh my God, I love Phil.
Yeah, Phil was good. But it'd just be like, he was just like a normal guy. And it just kind of always threw me off, because it's like, are they doing characters, or do they have the opportunity to do characters?
Oh, PJ Katie with PJ Katie's Farm was definitely a character.
Yeah.
Did I ever show you the video? I don't know if it's still on YouTube. I think it got pulled, but YTV did a Christmas tape where they gave it out to like all the staff members. And it was either half an hour or 45 minutes, but it contained bloopers, stuff that they couldn't show on TV that had lots of swearing in it. On Brainwash, like Sean there was playing a banjo, and they're just talking about, I can't remember, they're talking about like, they're just making up songs on the fly, like whose line is it anyways, but they're saying like shit, fuck in it. And it's hilarious because these are outtakes from a kid's program, which you hear about it all the time. But yeah, YTV had that. I think I have it on my computer. I think I saved it, but it's incredible because yeah, it just has all these.
I would love to see that.
I'm pretty sure I still have it. Yeah. It was, yeah, like a Christmas tape. And when it was uploaded to YouTube, it even said like, grab this while you can because it's going to get pulled down.
Yeah. But that's not uncommon for for there to be industry tapes and stuff where like they'll do an episode of like a game show or a TV, like they'll do it as like a joke for the people who work there. Like I'm trying to remember if it was Universal. I think it was Universal before South Park was a thing. They hired Matt and Trey from South Park to make it was like a Christmas video. And it was basically, I don't know if it was for Christmas or if I think it was around Christmas, but it was a video they made where they're mocking the brand synergy videos that were being passed around movie studios at the time, being like, did you know that Universal also owns Universal Recording Artists and also owns this and this? So try to remember that when you're making a movie, you have access to all these things that not only you have access to, but it helps them get more momentum as well, which makes sense because a lot of these, I guess before Disney decided to go supernova, there actually used to be movie studios who owned things. Now it just seems like every movie studio has the right to like 10 franchises, and then Disney owns everything else. But yeah, back in the day, like Universal had the franchise rights for like tons of different movies. And then Universal also owned theme parks, and they also owned television station channels, and they also owned what would you call it? Like music studios.
Mhm.
So they would make these promotional videos just kind of talking about brand synergy, about how you can combine all of them to help each other out. There used to be this industry video kind of mocking brand synergy videos, and it was made by Matt and Trey, and it's very funny to see because it's just them running around like the Universal studio getting like quick interviews with like celebrities pretending to be like different characters. So there's like Michael J. Fox and Steven Spielberg and Sylvester Stallone, and I think there's like Heavy D or something, like there's a bunch of like famous people in it just doing like these jokey characters. But you can tell that like the video wasn't made for the public. It was made for like people at Universal just to have a laugh.
Yeah, I'll be sure to show that YTV one. It's actually really good.
Mm-hmm.
So let's jump into this episode that we watched. It's going to pull it up. It is episode 57. That's available on the Keep It Weird YouTube channel, which is, I believe, from what I can tell, it's an official YTV Retro YouTube channel, which is amazing because you can go rewatch all these old shows that you loved as a kid. I took down in my notes every single play that the players did, what they played, and what their points were. So like I recorded it, I jotted down everything that I could for this.
Oh no.
Since it is a game show, I want to be able to talk about all the games they played, the characters. Some of them, like I didn't get the names of most of them other than Sean and the host. We're going to start on the host because he was my favorite as a kid. And I remember my mom laughing at how crazy one his hair is, and then just the
Mm-hmm.
faces that he pulls. And his name is Wink Yahoo, and he is like you've seen him on TV, you've seen him in commercials.
Yeah, it's like for a lot of like live action Canadian stuff, especially I think geared towards kids, you recognize these actors from so many different television shows and commercials, and that's due to a lot of Canadian law where certain amounts of programming have to be produced in Canada to be allowed on television in Canada, which back in like the 90s, when like people didn't have internet television and streaming services and all this stuff, that was like a big chunk. If you lived in Canada, if you lived in Canada, you probably had CBS, a CBS channel, which is American, a Fox channel, which is American, an ABC channel, which is American, an NBC channel, which is American. And then a good chunk of the rest of your channels were Canadian channels that had to have Canadian content on them.
Yeah, just off the top of my head, I can think of, because I guess the first channel is always your local channel, right?
Well, yeah. So there was like, you would have local channels, which were normally like CH channels.
Yeah, we had Checks, which is now, I guess, Global Peterborough, which it's evolved into Global. They're a chorus company buying up everything in Canada.
Exactly. So yeah. So if you lived in Canada, if you lived in like semi-rural Canada, you had access to like a CH channel. And then if you lived in kind of more of a hub area, I guess, you would have several of them. So living in like, we live in Peterborough, we had CHEX checks, and then we had access to CHCH.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't remember, but I remember when I had TV, when I was like younger, I also had access to like whatever the one is in Aurelia.
Okay.
Yeah, I just because they all look very similar, and they were all like, yeah, under like the same family of like,
I know that we talked about how we had Omni 1 and 2, and then there was another
yeah,
channel. I'm gonna butcher its name, and I think we mentioned it too. It was like CFM something 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 because it was Canada's first multicultural television station, maybe. Like I can't,
yes.
it had a big name, which like they were like, welcome to CFMCH, like could have been it. Yeah, I don't remember.
Yes. So if you were a kid growing up, especially during this time period, which I kind of want to loop back to, that it's almost having a research, this whole movement of like Canadian content is actually having like a huge resurgence thanks to streaming services. Staying in the 90s right now, you would watch YTV, and you would see live action shows or hosts, and it would be like that Sean guy, where you'd be like, oh, it's Sean or Ed from YTV, and then you would see this hour is 22 minutes, or you would see CBC would air highlights from the Just for Laughs festival,
Mhm.
and then Ed would be there as the comedian Sean Majumber. And then you would watch an American channel, and it would be a show where they needed like, and this is kind of Sean got famous this way too. You would watch an American channel, and you'd watch a show like 24, where they just needed brown people to play terrorists in the background.
Oh my God.
And Sean played a terrorist on 24, even though he was supposed to be playing like a Middle Eastern terrorist, even though I believe he's Indian.
Well, they were like, who do we get? Sean or do we get Fisher Stevens?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it's just funny being a Canadian, and some of the actors who kind of got big, you were able to almost like track their careers just by being like, hey, it's that guy, it's this guy.
One of my favorite things about Canadian actors is like, yeah, they if they never like blow up huge, they're still a celebrity. Like that's Canada. You can be Sean Majunder and you're amazing. Like we love you. I see your face and I'm like fucking Ed from Brainwash, Sean from Uh-Oh. Like we love seeing him in things.
Yeah, it's kind of weird because it's like almost recognizing, it's almost like it's I feel bad for them in a way, because it's like obviously not what they're going for, but it's almost like recognizing an underground celebrity. Like
Yeah.
he's famous, but he's not famous, and it's like it's just kind of fun.
You know that he was like, can I please be on Corner Gas? Like, get me on that fucking show as a
Oh,
regular.
I guarantee, I don't think he was a regular, but I guarantee you he was at least in an episode of Corner Gas.
For anybody who's ever watched Corner Gas, I'm going to click on his. Oh, he was in Royal Canadian Air Farce, which
Air
I fuck
Farce, that was it.
hate that show. I'm looking. He's on Republic of Doyle. I never watched that. I don't think he was on Corner Gas. I don't see
Wow.
it. But Corner Gas is people are gonna hate, like Canadians who love that show are gonna hate me. That's a fucking horrible show. I always called it Canadian Seinfeld, and I hate it.
Well, yeah, like it was the premise to that show was like, let's just get a couple actors and comedians. And the setup was that he works at like a gas station at the intersection of this like super rural town. And where was it, in Alberta?
Oh, I don't know. It was in Canada.
Yeah, I thought it was supposed to be like
It looks like it's part of the
in the
prairies.
Midwest. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's supposed to be out in the prairie, so I don't know if it's like where in what province exactly, but or if maybe they left it ambiguous, but
I wish their set was on Fort McMurray so that set could have burned down. They would have never made that TV show again.
well, it's yeah, you're right, like that.
Uh, it had a fucking cartoon show. Did you know that?
Yeah, and
Oh,
it had a movie, it had like a limited series that came out after it, like it ran its length, which was long. Like I think it was on air for like 10 years. It ran its length, and then it had a cartoon series that they did voices for. And then it did I believe it came back on like a streaming service for like a season or two, for like a new season.
I looked it up. It has 107 episodes.
But it isn't that like that's the old magic number.
Yeah, once you get into syndication, then you can sell.
Yeah, you have whoever has the rights, whoever's the rights holder for that show, or like whoever's I guess a producer or whoever. Once you're able to package content into like a form where it's like, okay, there's 100 episodes,
Hmm.
then you can start selling the television rights to channels all over the world. And you don't care anymore because it's already finished and done. So you could sell it to like a TV station in Chechnya to air it at like 2 a.m. with subtitles. And
Ugh.
you're like, I don't care. It's over. Like I'm just selling it to get like the back end on it.
I'm looking at before we actually get into Uh-Oh, because now we're just talking about Canadian stuff. I'm looking at the impact of Corner Gas, where they talk
Yeah.
about some cultural things. But one of the things they have in here is in the third season, episode called Mail Fraud. Brent used the term staycation to explain the act of taking a vacation without actually leaving home.
Yeah.
Just talks about how the term was originally coined in an article from the Myrtle Beach Sun News, that is now used in many pages of the internet, such as ourselves. But apparently, they're trying to contribute it to him from that show. never fucking watched the show to hear that term, but like I guess like can we say that staycation is a Canadian term at this point?
Yeah, well, I think it's kind of weird because for stuff like that, it's obviously someone is, I don't want to say credited, but obviously somebody is the person who came up with that term.
Oh yeah.
But a big part of it is who someone might have said that, or someone who wrote an article might have written that down 25 years ago. And it just kind of sat there and did nothing. And then it's an episode, it's like a featured on an episode of a TV show where then it becomes mainstream. Like I guarantee, like the one that I'm thinking of right now is, I guarantee you that like some relationship advice columnist probably answered a viewer's letter one time by being like, you and your partner should try something called going on a break, where you're not dating other people. You just like to take a break from dating and take like a little bit of time away from each other to like kind of view your relationship in the third person. And no one ever thought about it again for 30 years. And then the TV show Friends comes out, and that was the basis of an episode. And then it just becomes like a giant cultural phenomenon where people were like, we were on a break, they were on a break. And it's like, well, who do you credit it to? The original person, or do you credit Friends for making it this like huge thing?
I know that Kevin Smith coined a phrase that everybody used and he apologized for it later. Do you remember the phrase, or I guess the name?
What was it?
He coined the term benefer.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Ooh.
He coined it on the he coined it on the Jay Leno show because he would have like a Kevin's road trip segment every once in a while.
I
And
remember that,
then
yeah.
yeah, Jay Leno asked us like, oh, like you're good friends with Ben Affleck and he's dating Jennifer Lopez. And Kevin Smith says, oh, I just say Bennifer now. It's much easier. Like just because you get both of them in one name. And then
Yeah.
that's where that came from. And
Oh
he's
my
just like,
God.
yeah, Kevin Smith's like, I'm so fucking sorry for coming up with that.
That's pretty funny though.
Yeah. Okay, let's jump on the uh-oh.
Okay.
So the episode starts as always. I guess like Wink, yeah, he busts out of the scene and like that hair. How does he get that hair? Because it's massive. Like it's just like he looks like Jimmy, like an adult Jimmy Neutron.
Well, the character is, he's supposed to be like some stylized, he's like an over stylized parody of like a 60s or 70s game show host.
Oh yeah.
So he's wearing like a suit. He's wearing like almost, I don't want to say a power suit, but he's wearing like an over stylized
Very
suit.
powerful.
Yeah, like his suit is, it's not like a black or a gray suit. It's like baby blue, and it's got like rhinestones on it, and it's got like something goofy coming out of the breast pocket, and it's just like a suit dialed up to 11 as a
Mhm.
joke. And then instead of his hair being greased back or like slicked back and like kind of a stylish haircut,
It's
it's
poofed up.
it's greased, so it looks like it's slicked back, but it's slicked up. And then instead of hiring like a classically handsome person, he's like a very short kind of Weasley guy, which makes the fact that like
I don't he's with kids, but he looks tall. Like I would
he
say
looks he looks taller than 9-year-olds.
and the kids like when he stands there there's kids on a platform behind him and that might be
Yeah.
why.
Maybe the other reason is I think his suit's also pretty ill-fitting.
Mm.
Like I think maybe that's what threw me off even watching it now, is he's wearing kind of an oversized suit. So that combined with the fact that he's like kind of wearing his hair to gain like 3 more inches of height makes like it like, and obviously it's done on purpose, but like inadvertently makes him look like a small person. So I think that's what always maybe threw me off when I was a kid, was like I always thought he was a smaller guy just based on the fact of like how he was dressed. But now watching it when I'm older, it seems like that was actually done as more of a conscious effort to make, even though he might not be a small person, just to make him look comically small.
Yeah, when Wink, yeah, who he introduces everybody, all of the other like I want to call them hosts. What would you call them? Like secondary people, just like the
Yeah, just like segment hosts or
yeah, people who
yeah.
have like their games that they host. They don't matter. The big star of the show is the Punisher, who is in a locked jail cell, and every episode he'll break out of it in a different way. And this time he breaks through the side of the jail cell, runs around for like a few seconds, looks at a kid.
Hang on a second.
Oh yeah.
He breaks out of the jail cell and scares the shit out of the kid right beside him.
Oh yeah, there's this little black boy. We should also mention, because this is in Canada, thank you, Canada. Canada's very multicultural, unlike if you watch a United States television show where you just have all white people. In Canada, we are very multicultural, so we have many different people here, and you can tell in any of our programming, which is a good thing, because white people, you had your time. Like, fuck off. I don't need to have a movie where it's just all white people all the time.
Yeah, like I see where you're coming from. Like when you watch this, especially because it filmed in I think it filmed in and around the Toronto area, but it went on the road a lot. Like there was lots of segments of them visiting areas.
Yeah, we'll get to that. That's called the slime tour.
Yeah, but you're right. Like you can tell that this was obviously like field trips for classes and stuff like that to go see a taping and participate in it. But yeah, all the kids are it's very much, yeah, no, it's really good. But you're right. It's when you watch it, it just seems like 1,000 screaming kids in the same age group. But then when you actually look at it, you realize that there's kids of every ethnicity in it. It's not like they went to an area where it's just they went to some rural Canadian town and filmed an episode and it's all just white kids.
What, like we were saying, Punisher scares the shit out of this kid. I guess he basically just kind of not shoulder tackles them as he's going, but he's probably knocking into them. He picks up this one kid. I'm assuming they volunteer beforehand, be like, hey, would you be okay if the Punisher picks you up and throws you 5 feet in the air into a pool of slime? As this kid's going, I'm thinking, is that just cement floor that he's landing in a kiddie pool? But holy fuck, this kid's gonna have a bruise on his arm from where he landed. What if he landed on his wrist and snapped his wrist? There was no consideration on could these kids get hurt?
Let me know at what point you want me to read off my list of every instance of something that happened on that show that could never happen on a TV show now, due to insurance reasons. Because it's a huge kids having stuff thrown at them, kids being picked up and thrown into the kiddie pool with on a concrete floor, telling the kid to jump in a kiddie pool on a concrete floor. And by the way, somewhere buried inside that kiddie pool are golf balls.
Mm-hmm.
Could you imagine, Adam, jumping and landing on your hands and knees?
Oh my God, I didn't even fucking think about that.
Yeah. And then when we get to the slime tour segment, running through a public park that's just poured concrete,
mm-hmm.
Running and then running through a dirty fountain, combing through a dirty public fountain to try to find flippers and stuff, and then running while you're soaking wet. What was at the end of that? Oh, and then jumping into piles of loose hay, which I don't know if you've ever physically touched hay. It's really
it hurts, it's coarse.
It's very Yeah, it's very much an irritant. And then on top of that, while they're digging through all that, that hay, it's not soft straw. It's hay and whatever other debris and shit a hay baler has picked up.
Mm-hmm.
So it's branches and sticks and stones. And also, I didn't know if you noticed, copious amounts of horse shit. Did you see all the shit in the bale?
No.
When they're digging through the hay bales looking for the whatever it is, the skirt or whatever they needed to put on to win the contest.
Yeah, it was shorts. It was yeah.
Shorts. Yeah, it zoomed in on I think the orange or the purple one,
mm-hmm.
and there was just a pile of horse shit.
I love it.
I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, so there's a lot of things that you couldn't do nowadays. But yeah, it starts off with the Punisher throwing kid 5 feet in the air into this pool. The kid gets right up, so who knows if it was adrenaline.
Yeah.
Right after that, we cut to the sponsors of the show. And this was always the thing where you'd be like, oh, these kids are playing for things. The first sponsor is EA Games, and the grand prize winner gets 9 PC games like MLB Triple Play 99.
Mm-hmm.
Runners up get, I'm gonna butcher it. I have it spelled Rucanor.
Yeah,
Runcanor.
it was like a
It's a
it was
soccer
like
pack, is what they get, like a soccer ball, bag, and shoes, maybe cleats.
well, yeah, like it's like athletic equipment. So it's like shorts and soccer cleats and whatever, but like it's from a company no one in the world has ever heard of.
Yeah. Usually what would happen is the company that they would get to sponsor them, which I know Video and Arcade Top 10 used all the time, which we'll do an episode on them one day because they're fucking great, was bum equipment. Where even as a kid, I was like, who the fuck would want to wear bum equipment? And then as an adult, I'm like, I want bum equipment. And then I look to
I
see
want
how
it
much
back.
I want it now. They're still in
Hmm.
business. That shit's fucking expensive.
Hmm. Yeah, man. That's what like the reason like there used to be like a million different companies that made running shoes and sports shoes and all this stuff. And the reason why now there's like Nike and then a few other companies
Mm-hmm.
is unless you own factories in like Bangladesh to make all this shit for pennies, if you make a t-shirt that's made in Canada and then like try to sell it in Canadian stores, your t-shirt is going to cost 50 or $60.
Yep.
And then it's like, here's a brand name Nike t-shirt. It's $19.
The second runners up get Timex watches. Cool. But yeah.
Yeah, yeah, when it does the showcase, when it does like the showcases for like the prizes, it's very much like a time capsule to like the mid to late 90s of like shit that people wanted,
Yeah, it's kids being like, oh fuck, a watch.
which is funny now because like I think now if you saw it or watched it, a game show that was like kid focused, like first place would be a PlayStation, second place would be an iPhone, or not an iPhone, but like some sort of tablet device, and then third place would be a gift card. But looking back at like the stuff that kids gave a shit about, it's kind of funny because it's like, what was the one of them? Because I actually remember this. It was one of the prizes was a JVC Kaboom portable stereo.
Yeah, the full name is a JVC Kaboom box. When we had inside our mall, Lansdowne Place, we had a store called Adventure Electronics, and
Hmm.
they had just a fucking wall of boom boxes. And I always wanted the JVC Kaboom box.
It's a cylinder with two front facing speakers. And then on either side of the cylinder is two subwoofers.
Oh, it's
And
fucking
and
awesome.
the entire marketing campaign was it's a portable stereo that doesn't, because like most portable stereos didn't have subwoofers. So it's they just had like larger, they just would have like a couple sets of speakers. So they'd have like larger speakers
Mm-hmm.
and then to do like low range and then two smaller speakers to handle like high range. So the whole gimmick with like the JVC Kaboom was it had two large and two small speakers to do low to high, but then just to like absolutely murder low range, it just had two like 8 or 9 inch subwoofers built on this, like not one, two for some reason. And it was just like, there you go. It's technically the loudest portable stereo money can buy.
And all I can think about is it probably doesn't come with the AC plug if you want to plug into the wall, but it probably takes at least 20-25 D size batteries, I
Oh
would
yeah,
imagine.
it would murder. It's actually funny to look at because I remember I was working somewhere and it was just kind of in this like shitty area and me and my coworkers were talking about like someone should buy a boombox. Like that's what they used to be called, or they used to be called ghetto
Yeah,
blasters.
that's not appropriate anymore. You can't.
No.
I called a boombox a ghetto blaster not too long
Yeah.
ago in front of a person who was not white, and yeah, that's not. Don't
That's what,
call
yeah,
them.
that's they were I don't know if there was a company that came out with the name, but like they were marketed as Ghetto Blaster, and it's like that's pretty, it's quite
It's
insensitive.
so bad. I don't want to say it's funny, but like it's funny to think of the term and the reasoning. Even though
Yeah,
like when I was little, like in Peterborough, even still, there's I don't know if has there ever been like what you would consider a ghetto in Peterborough.
yeah, but like it's not a the whole marketing campaign for calling something a Ghetto Blaster is to advertise to like white teenagers, hey, here's a portable stereo that is in the same like style and vein of an enormous loud stereo that black people would play in urban centers.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was the marketing campaign. And then it's like, what do we call it? And it's like, well, black people are using it in like
I'm shaking my fucking head so hard, but keep on going.
the dude that like, can you imagine the marketing meeting for what do we call this stereo? And they're like, and it ended with Ghetto Blaster.
It
They're
was
like, they're drawing on a whiteboard and they're like, okay, so we're all picturing five black guys sitting on a stoop in front of like a shitty apartment building
Mhm.
in like very much like a lower income area of like a major city.
Oh, just say the Bronx. They're in the Bronx.
They're in the Bronx or they're wherever, and they're sitting on like the stoop of like this, yeah, shitty apartment, and they're like listening to mute. They don't care if it's too loud or like other people don't want to hear it. They're listening to their music and like they're being loud and out there. And it's like, how do we get like, how do you market that to white kids who want it to like give it an edge and whatever? And they're like, okay, so the music's blasting and the black people are living in their
Mhm.
ghetto blaster. And then
Uh,
they're like, we nailed it. And then like, yeah, 20 years go by and then people go, do you remember the time they marketed a stereo as a ghetto blaster? But it's funny now because like that used to be the problem with like those stupid stereos is everyone wanted the loudest and the biggest stereo, which just meant it used more batteries. And it's
what you
like,
would do is you would take it to the basketball court and you would have it off to the side. Like that's what those were used for. You
yeah,
were playing your basketball and you were playing your Space Jam soundtrack, playing Everyone Get Up, it's time to jam now.
yeah. But no, well, they go back even farther than that because I'm thinking of like the old ones, which were like
The big
uh,
like black cassette ones.
no, like older than that, like the big
Oh, the silver, yeah.
the silver and chrome ones, and the whole, and it was kind of like the whole reason why JVC doubled down, and they're like, let's just put subs on it. Was if you had like one of the good original ghetto blasters, it had an equalizer on the front of it,
Hmm.
so you could actually like turn down the treble and crank up the bass and like set the mid range all the way to the bottom. And it turned your speaker into a giant set of subs. Yeah, you could listen to like whatever music.
And we all know if your neighbors can't hear it, they're not having a good time either. Everybody needs
Exactly.
to
Yeah,
party.
you got to blast it. So yeah, like if you, that was like the whole gimmick was like, how do you make the loudest subwoofer or how do you make the loudest stupid stereo? And it's like, just give it more bass, give it more low range. And then it just ended. I think like the JVC Kaboom was kind of like the death of the ghetto blaster, where like
Every time Ghetto Blaster.
ghetto blaster, but like they weren't portable. Like you can't power subwoofers off of double A or
No, you
D
can't.
cell batteries. So it's kind of funny to see that where like then it just became like portable stereos and ghetto blasters just immediately died. And like I couldn't find one. I remember we tried to find one for my work so we could have like a radio and some music. And I'm like, well, just get a portable one we could hang off a hook in the office. And I'm picturing like a portable stereo where it has like the antenna and the handle that, remember they'd have a handle that flipped up.
Yep.
I couldn't find one for sale. I'm like, I don't think they make them anymore. And now it's all, what are they called? Sound bars
Yeah.
or like those speaker bricks or whatever, where it's like all you're buying is a Bluetooth speaker that connects to your phone. And now because like we don't use D cell or whatever those batteries are called, like nickel batteries or whatever they were,
Hmm.
now everything's like lithium ion batteries. It's like the speakers are tiny, they can last like 24 hours on a charge. Like it's interesting to me to like picture an alternate history where like the ghetto blaster didn't die but we still had the problems of like you can't plug it in anywhere. So it
Yeah.
just turns into like people would have this like 300-pound subwoofer that they dragged around with them everywhere, and the battery would make it because like they weren't limited by the battery power. They could just keep getting louder and louder and louder, and then like it just turns into like a thing where it's like you could carry around something that just ruined everyone on that city block's like day. Like you would sit there and just turn on a radio and everyone within like 200 yards would be like, turn off the fucking stereo.
That I think that's like they have two grand prizes because they have the EA games and then they have the JVC Kaboom box. The first game that we play is I assume that they just randomly pick a person to go first, but Blue spins the wheel. So they have a wheel that has just a bunch of games on it, and then which is basically just we'll get into what that is. It's just a trivia component.
Let's just get into the wheel. Yeah, they have a spinnable wheel, and the outcomes are where you have to answer like a moderately difficult trivia question. If you win, you get points. If you lose, your teammate gets like slime poured on them. And then the other ones on the wheel, there was like a lose a turn. There was gain an extra spin. There was one for swapping points. There was another trivia one called rapid something, rapid fire or whatever.
Speed round was the trivia
Speed
one.
round. And then there was another one which was like mayhem, which was like some sort of physical challenge.
Yeah, so Blue plays the first game, which is called The Dump, which is my favorite name of all the games. It's like, you're going to go take the dump. And what that game is, it's Shitty Plinko. This is episode 57. So I think I assume they like film 3 or 4 or 5 episodes in one day. The cameraman does not follow the ball whatsoever. They put it
not
in
at all.
drop it, and it's like you hear ding ding ding, and they're like, oh, you got 25 points. And the cameraman's like, where the fuck is the ball? And you don't see it go down because it is like this like little, almost like a mouse trap type thing where you watch the ball go down and they can like hit flippers and the kid just fucking stands there like an idiot.
Well, I think the problem with that is because obviously, yeah, like this show is filmed in a little tiny set in the back room of a studio where when they're done, they just pile all the shit in the corner. That's like a TV thing is you can't, even on like a game show or anything where it's like filmed in a studio or live, you cannot point the camera down because when you point it down, all you see is cables taped to the floor and then PAs sitting like with their legs crisscrossed holding cue cards or lights or whatever. And then you'll see taped on the floor all the marks for the actors for like where they should be standing. So I think I'd like to imagine at some point during the production of they built this stupid ripoff Plinko board. And then the first episode, they looked down and it was just like 2 interns like quickly writing jokes or doing something. And it was a bunch of garbage taped to the ground. And it was just like a bunch of cigarette butts and stuff. And they're like, don't point the camera down. Don't point the camera down. It ruins the illusion.
What happens is the ball goes down and it will randomly give someone points. So they gave Green 25 points.
Yeah.
The next spin on the wheel was Green and they got the speed round. And the very first question is Hawaii a country or a state? And the kid goes, country.
Well, the speed round is bad because the one kid on the green team, Jose.
Yep.
He immediately does trivia and he knows nothing.
He gets 2 points and they give him 10 points. He gets 2 points or 2 correct answers, which is worth 5 points apiece, and he gets 10. And you're just like, holy shit, kid. You like you said, he does know nothing.
I like to think though that like the school was like that the class that participated was like, okay, 2 kids get to be on the show. We're going to pick like what 2 kids get to go. And the class was like, because Jose looks like he's fucking 30. They're like, Jose's the strongest kid in our class. Pick Jose. And they went, okay, Jose's the physical guy. Got him. And then whoever the green, because then later on in the match, the other green kid gets the lightning round and he gets like 9 out of 10 questions right. And he's very obviously like the smartest kid in the class.
Yeah.
And it's like, I just like to picture the class being like, okay, we get to pick 2 representatives to go on the game show. And the class just is like smart enough to hedge their bets where they're like, we'll pick Jose, who's the strongest. And then we'll pick this kid who's the smartest. And then the very first at bat, Jose, who's an idiot, gets trivia. And he's just like, is Hawaii a country? And he's like, sure. And then the rest is like, pass. I don't know.
And you, my friend, are going to speed round. Test your brain, Jose. Move.
Come on over, Jose. Nothing like starting off the game with a little brain power, eh?
Yeah.
Ready to go? 20 seconds, 10 questions, 5 points. You got it?
Yeah.
Ready? Starting now. Is Hawaii a country or state?
Country.
Name one actor from Men in Black.
Will Smith.
Pumpkin, fruit or vegetable?
Fruit.
Does the moon affect the Earth's tides?
No.
Werewolves, full moon or half moon?
Full moon.
How many full moons are there in 1 year?
3.
How many players on field during a baseball game?
8.
How many pitchers on field during... Oh, I'm sorry, we ran out of time. Wink, how did he do?
Well, we got 2 right. 2 times 5 is 10 points. So 10 points are added to green score.
Right after Jose does trivia, Red does spin and win, which is just like it sounds. You win 20 points and you spin again. And then he gets the speed round, gets 35 points. But next is our very first introduction to Mayhem, which Blue plays. So it was the kid who played the dump earlier. And what does he get to do? He plays fucking ring toss with Mom's spaghetti.
Yeah, so he's supposed to pick up piles of spaghetti and then they have the audience holding
Bowls.
They're like colanders or something. Yeah. And then they're holding colanders and there's 5 of them and he's supposed to get a handful of spaghetti into each one by just throwing it.
Yeah, and if you don't get all 5, you get 0 points. Motherfucker gets 0 points.
Oh yeah, nothing.
He got like 3 bowls, but it's just these kids who clearly like don't fucking throw it at me. And
well, that's something else.
Audience, yeah. So you're throwing it at every single kid in the audience.
That you immediately think, okay, I get the gimmick. The audience is going to get stuff thrown at them, but it's like wet noodles. Like who cares? But all I could picture was, man, could you imagine? Like, that's why the green team, that's why that school picked Jose. Could you imagine if Jose got Mayhem and then Jose gets Mayhem twice? Yes, he does.
Jose gets Mayhem twice and gets 0 points on each of them.
But okay, there's 2. This feel like there's only a handful of notable plays, and Jose's are all notable because Jose gets trivia and immediately like screws his team over, which is like trivia is like the fastest, easiest way to get points. It's like if you answer 10 questions, you get 50 points. So even if you miss a couple, you're still getting like 40, 45 points. Jose gets 2 right, like just nothing. But Jose gets Mayhem twice. His first Mayhem is jump into the kiddie pool and try to find golf balls. Mm-hmm. And just watching him, it's like move your arms and legs around, man. And Jose like jumps, he like belly flops into the pool. And all I can think of is, could you imagine jumping onto a hard floor onto a golf ball? How much that would fucking kill.
Well, they do have knee pads on, which thank God.
Imagine it hit your shin or the palm of your hand.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that would be so painful.
So that was Jose's second Mayhem. His first Mayhem is the one where they have like a cutout mannequin.
That's that. Excuse me. Sorry. I'm getting excited.
You're joking. You're like, I want to talk about it. Go.
Jose's second May. No, that's his first Mayhem. He has to throw water balloons of like black or dark purple dye at a cardboard cutout of like,
he looks like a gangster more or less.
Yeah, but it's kind of weird. And this is like something else I want to talk about too, is like the Punisher, where it's like, don't make it a guy, make it a wild animal. Make it like the woolly bullies on the loose and we don't blah, blah, blah. Because as soon as you go, there's a man in the audience. And as soon as there's children around, we have to lock this man up because he can't be trusted around children. It's like, holy shit. Like that's got really weird connotations of like, why is this man not to be trusted with children? Why does he need to be locked up? Why is he wearing S&M gear?
And then he's going to throw me in this little jail cell where he pours his goo on my face.
Yeah, where he goos me. So anyways, they do Jose's one and they're like, the girl, I recognize the girl. She's like, there's a creeper hanging out, making everyone have a bad time. And it's like an adult, a cutout of an adult, like kind of being inconspicuous and shady, hidden amongst an audience of children.
Yep.
And it's like, make it a monster. Say, hey, this is the bad time monster and we want him to go away. Like, don't be like, there's an adult here. He's trying to get us in his van. And you have to throw water balloons at him. And you also have to tell an adult what happened. And it's like, what the fuck?
Jose fucking is whipping balloons into the crowd, missing the standee.
Missing them. But did you notice? Because the camera cuts away pretty quick. Mm-hmm. He two-hand overhand throws a balloon on a down.
Yeah, he fucking nails it.
he nails a girl right in the fucking mouth. Like he nails a girl where like, have you ever heard the term like ring your bell
Oh
or get
yeah.
your bell rung? Like in boxing, like if you, sorry, I'm yelling. I'm so fucking excited now.
I wish that she just folded in half and
She does. So he overhand throws with two hands, and he's such a fucking meathead. He throws it at a down, like he doesn't even know to do a release. He throws it overhand and then lets go while the balloon is on a downward project, like while it's moving down. So like this thing's not even going anywhere close to the cardboard cutout. And he hits a girl in the bottom of like her jaw and just rings her bell. Like just this girl like doesn't even fucking know to cry yet. She's just like, what the fuck?
And I think the reason why he threw like that is because right before he like smacks her in the face, he overhands it and nails the mannequin, like the cutout, right in the dick. So he's like, if I do it again, I can get it good. But no.
No way, Jose. So he just fucking rocks this girl right in the mouth. And then the camera cuts immediately to right to the cutout. And then it just shows a couple balloons sail past the cutout. And then when the camera cuts back, there's just a girl whose entire like her upper torso is just soaked in blue. And the two girls beside her she's sitting beside are clearly being like, oh my God, Samantha, are you okay? And she is fucking hurt. But we can go on and on and on about the games themselves. But there was one reoccurring thing that happened that was the fucking highlight of the show. And you know exactly what it is.
What? I don't know. What is it?
You know exactly what it is.
It's when they go to Alberta for the slime tour.
No, it's not.
Oh my God.
It's in the studio.
What's the highlight?
It's when the camera cuts back. What happens, and it happens about 3 times, when the camera cuts back from a segment to Wink, what happens?
I don't know.
A Chinese kid is standing up to watch the segment. So the way he is standing directly in front of the host, which is just like, oh my, it's just like the absolute nightmare. If you're like the director of this show and you're trying to film it and you cut from like camera 2 back to camera 1, which is like camera 1 and like camera 2 is the segment camera. Camera 1 is the camera that's focused on Wink, and it's also focused on like the stupid spinning wheel. Actually, I think they use camera 2 on the spinning wheel because it always cuts back to a wider shot.
Yeah, they would call that the hard camera is the Wink one. Like it's stationary. That the camera does not move.
Exactly. So every time they keep cutting back to camera 1, which is just a camera immediately focused. And it's like I said, if the camera were to pan down, you would just see taped X's on the floor for all the actors' marks.
Mm-hmm.
It's Wink standing on his mark, and the camera is perfectly focused and framed right where he needs to be. And whenever it cuts back to that camera, there's just this like 11-year-old Chinese kid standing up watching the shit that's going on like in the segment, and it gets to the point where Wink starts yelling at the kid to sit down.
It does. Sorry, I totally forgot that. It's like, he yells at the kid to fucking sit down.
He's like, hey, you sit down. I'll give them credit that like obviously by episode 50 they're so you could like what you were saying about like film 4 of these a day. The way that it was shot, you could tell like they could hammer these out so friggin' fast.
Oh yeah.
Like I did not notice any editing or any like I didn't notice any bits of the episode where you could tell there was like a clean cut and they had to reset something or they had to bring people back. Like when a kid does the segment, he like crawls around on his hands and knees looking for a golf ball for 20 seconds. And as soon as the segment's over, a PA or whatever just fucking grabs the kid and he's like, go back. In like 45 seconds, you have to spin the wheel.
Yeah.
And it's like, so it's like bang, bang, bang. It's so friggin' fast. And it's like, that's the one thing I noticed was I noticed there was one camera cut the first time the kids stood up, and they cut away from Wink to the panel of the kids, and then like a PA like kicked the kid to be like, sit down. But then the next few times they don't even pan away. They just film Wink with a kid standing in the way. And then finally, by like the third or fourth time, they don't pan away. And Wink just goes, hey, you sit down.
I want to talk about the slime tour because this is a reoccurring thing in every episode where they go to a different city across Canada and they just have them do like what we talked about earlier was the shitty obstacle course, which is basically like your elementary school being like, okay, kids, we're in charge of making an obstacle course for the day for kids to do. What can we find in the classroom? It starts off with all the kids introducing themselves, and it's fucking scary. I won't say it's scary, but it's almost scary. These kids just screaming their names and then little quotes.
I'm Ted the Terminator and I'm gonna terminate you! Wow! I'm Devin Justin and I wanna get messy!
I'm chasing the guard, man. I'm gonna take you out.
And then the camera just backs up, and it's just like this one male kid, like just like not hip thrusting, but they're like trying to make like look like they have muscles, and it's super awkward. All the kids in studio are watching this, and they have to bet on which kid they think are gonna win. They all pick the boy, which I laughed. Like I'm like, oh, they all picked the fucking boy. He almost lost. He did win, but he did almost lose. He was like in second most of the time.
Well, the funny thing about that is like for making TV, especially in front of a live audience, that's like a joke now is like for game shows or talk shows or anything like that. They're like, you need a live audience to show that there's like some fucking life to what's going on.
Oh, yeah.
So they're like, okay, this is not exciting. Like we're going to make kids run through a fountain, ride a tricycle, and that's
Dig
it.
through shit.
Dig through shit. That's it. It's not fun. It's not exciting. It's not very lively. How do we do it? And they're like, what if we lined up 2 elementary schools and then told them, like, don't listen to your teachers. Like, when you see this guy wave his hands, that means we want you guys to yell and clap and jump. And it's like that's just a trick to make it like look exciting. You know what I mean?
Yeah. At the end, they just like tally up. Like it's not very climactic. There's like, I think Red like did his last thing, which was a speed round, and he won 40 points, and then his team just won. And then they're like, okay, everyone go home. My favorite part though is the announcer tells everybody at home what the audience goes home with. And I couldn't remember if it was just the winning team's audience or if it was the whole audience that got the items.
What were the items?
Everyone is going home with some Hubba Bubba chewing gum.
There was the whole audience.
Yep. And Bop It.
Yeah. That's probably the whole audience.
Like, kid comes home covered in fucking slime. That girl's like, Mom, I got fucking beamed in the face with a water balloon, but I got some Hubba Bubba and a Bop It.
It just would have been nice if Jose, because I think the girl was wearing blue, but it would have been really nice if the girl was wearing green and Jose just fucking drilled her in the face.
Oh, yeah.
And then like the next day at school, they're just like, Jose and Joseph did really well on uh-oh. And then the girl's just like, you hit me in the face, Jose.
I fucking, as a kid, like when this would come on, I would watch it. It wasn't my favorite YTV show, but like as an adult rewatching it, there's so much stuff that you see. You're like, oh, this could never happen now. The fact that you made notes of everything is like, well, you can't do that anymore. You can't do that anymore.
No,
There's
you can't
creepers
do
in the
hardly.
audience.
Yeah, like so much of it had like weird connotations of like, wait, why?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
hang on a sec. Why? Yeah, I mean, is there any, like, are there kids game shows right now?
Well, not right now, but previously, like last year.
I knew there used to be tons. Like the other one I'm familiar with was the video arcade one, which we talked about.
Fuck, I love Video Arcade Top 10. I was pumped whenever that was on.
It was actually kind of funny because I think my memory, I kind of forgot about even I had an t-shirt. I had a green one.
Mm-hmm.
They sold them at my high school for I can't remember why. It was something to raise money for something. And I remember there was like things you could buy, and Chorus or whatever had donated like a box of like t-shirts, and I bought one of them for like
you'd be like,
$15.
of course I want an t-shirt.
Yeah. Because I remember on the front it said and then on the back the sponsor was Fruit Gushers.
Yes.
Which was a giant Fruit Gusher logo. And I'm like, this is amazing. So yeah, like I think It kind of reminded me of like, I know there's that like it's a show called like Wipeout,
Mhm.
where it's kind of like a show that's gimmicked around like doing physical things, which kind of surprises me because I forget Wipeout is a show because it's on like some stupid American network.
Yeah.
The only time I ever think about it is when they say somebody had a heart attack and died on the show,
Oh my
which
god.
I would think that's happened a few times. I won't bother to look it up because I know it's happened. But if you want, I guess if you want an interesting read, like type in Wipeout lawsuits because I think somebody's died and I think somebody else was paralyzed.
I'm gonna assume that the guy who died was an obese American, and that's just me being mean, but
Yeah, so kids' game shows are funny. Like obviously, like the questions were friggin' the stupidest questions in the world, and just watching kids get them wrong is funny.
oh my god.
I think the true joy, the only reason now to go back and watch Uh-oh would be if you have like a passing interest in how a TV show is made, because this is wham bam thank you ma'am as far as like how do we hammer out content.
I just assume that every single kid in this audience beforehand was giving a Jolt Cola and just fucking scream for your team and boo the other team.
I guarantee if you got your class to go to this thing, you got a free pizza party because it was Chorus who made this, right?
Yeah, YTV. I don't know if it was Chorus. It was probably Chorus at the time.
Yeah, I guarantee like YTV just bought a bunch of 2-for-1 pizza and they got a bunch of cases of like Coke and Mountain Dew. And then they just said, we're going to give you guys a tour. You're going to meet the people who make the show. You're going to see what a TV station looks like and blah, blah, blah. You're going to sit outside in that grass strip in between the parking lot and the front door. You're going to sit because you're not allowed inside. You're going to sit there where your teachers are going to feed you pizza and pop. And then you're going to come back inside and just lose your minds for 30 minutes and then go home. Get your bubble gum and go home.
It's time to rank this. I know this isn't a conventional, is that the right word? Fuck, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Okay, this isn't a conventional TV show because it is like a game show for kids, but it's fucking fun. And I just want to talk about it. Where do you put this on your top 10 right now?
Oh, this for me is my new, I guess, number 2, or I'll say 3.
You know, new number 3?
Yeah, like I still think like a scripted show like The Odyssey is better than it, just because it's like a scripted story. And this is like a game show. Like I don't even really consider these like TV. Like I think now like the medium of TV, all I think of is like scripted drama. I'm not like a daytime live TV watcher. Like I don't really watch game shows. I don't watch talk shows. So it's kind of hard for me. Like if somebody said like, Adam, what's your favorite TV show? Or if you ask somebody, what's your favorite TV show? They're probably going to say like a scripted narrative, scripted drama or comedy or whatever. You're not going to see a lot of people that say like, my favorite TV show is Dr. Phil.
I think you're gonna get lots of boomers who will be like, oh, it's definitely Millionaire. I love the Millionaire show. And you'd be like,
Oh, yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah, like but I mean, like those people, it's very obvious, like the people that
Oh,
are
yeah.
going to say that.
for myself, I am also going to put this as my number 3. And that goes right under, I believe it was Clerks number 1, The Odyssey number 2, and now this number 3. And then Kings and The Guys Next Door. And because we all love The Guy, even though it's last, we're like, fucking love The Guys Next Door. So that's it for this episode. Thank you for listening. Be sure to check out akindofgarbage.com, our email where you can send us comments, Twitter and Instagram at akindofgarbage, Facebook at akindofgarbagepod. Don't forget the Patreon, patreon.com/akindofgarbage, where you get exclusive episodes every other week where we talk about movies, and eventually comic books are jumping in there as well. And you can find myself on Twitter at Presto Adam and on the Hey Kids Comics radio show with Dan Martin, Chris, and Chris, Friday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Trent Radio 92.7 CFFF FM. Cody?
You can follow me at Synced Word on Twitter, and that's about it. And then here on this podcast.
Yeah. With that, I'm Anna Bishop.
I'm Cody Andrews.
And what do you say when you wake up in the middle of the night and you've pissed your pants? Uh-oh. Cody, the Schneider cut is out. What's happening?
I'm actually disappointed.
I heard it was fucking bad.
I've heard the opposite. I've heard it. I've heard it's it's like the absolute vision of a lunatic who probably like the studio was right. Like everything I've read about it is it's insane for all the wrong reasons.
Oh no.
It's in 4:3, like where most movies are like formatted to like for widescreen televisions or
Yeah, I read that it was 4:3, and I'm like, huh, that's an interesting choice.
it's a box, like you're literally watching a box.
Well, that's fine. It's fine.
uh, it's weird.
You're just like, I can do two of these boxes on my TV at once. That's how big my TV is. Give me one little box.
Well, I think it's interesting, like I said, you have so many movies and TV shows coming out now where they're formatted for like home theaters, where there's like there was kind of that argument a few years ago where they were filming movies in formats that were favorable to IMAX theaters.
Yeah.
And then people were like, if you shoot it like this, it's just easier for people to watch it on Netflix. And then directors were like, I don't want to make my movie easier to format for Netflix. I want it to be the best format for like a theater projection. So it's just interesting to see Zack Snyder be like 4:3. And it's like, why? And the joke I've read on that is people are like, that's the easiest format to watch a movie on your iPhone while you sit on the bus beside a woman who wishes you would move.
Oh my God.
So it's out. I've heard it's like very much, it's a lot more interesting than the original version of the movie. It's still a complete train wreck in a lot of respects, but at least it's like his movie. The other thing is, and I guess this might stem from like a lot of there was a lot of, because I think his original cut of the movie was going to be like over 3 hours.
Oh, fucking Christ.
Like it was going to be like Lord of the Rings. He was going, because this was the movie that was supposed to like introduce the Flash and Cyborg and a bunch of other characters that hadn't been featured in movies yet.
Yeah.
Like instead of him just meeting the Flash and being like, you want to be in the Justice League and that's it, I guess like what's the Flash's love interest, Ira West or Iris West or whatever her name is.
You're asking a guy who reads no DC.
Anyways, like she's in the movie, but like the actress is, or the character is played by a black actress. And then when Joss Whedon came on, like her entire character was cut out of the movie. So she's not in the movie at all. And then what's the other one? Apparently Cyborg in this movie is supposed to be like the emotional heart of the movie, like the fact that he doesn't think of himself as a human anymore. And most of that is cut out of the Joss Whedon version. And then in this 4-hour version of the movie, like he has he is one of the bigger parts to the movie. And that might be one of the reasons why, like, I think that actor's name is Ray Fisher. Ray Fisher was saying like it was a complete nightmare to work with Joss Whedon. And like, I don't want to get into it, but like, I'm not a fan of Joss Whedon or Jeff Johns. Like those guys can fuck off. And I think a lot of, because Jeff Johns was like promoted to have some sort of like producer role for like the Warner Brothers DC movies. So now that kind of people are comparing to like Zack Snyder's version of the movie to Joss Whedon's, people are like, well, I think the issue is Ray Fisher signed on to do this movie under the guise of, I have an actual character that has a role in this movie. And then all of that was like whittled down to like, I just stand in the background. And when Batman yells something at me, be like, I'll hack it. So I think it's kind of now like you can kind of see why like a lot of people in that movie were kind of pissed off at Joss Whedon, because like I guess he made some pretty crazy changes to the Zack Snyder version, which probably didn't pan out.
I don't know if I'm ever actually going to watch it because it is 4 hours. And well, we did talk about, you have not watched it yet, right?
No.